Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we're continuing just a very tiny little movie month.
So small. Everything is so tiny.
So tiny, so small. Look, we're down here. This week, we're continuing on our Getting Small movie month, because this is the month with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where they get quite small, I'm told.
I think it's the smallest they get, from what I can tell from the trailers.
From what I can tell, it actually might be the smallest anyone has ever gotten in film.
Oh man, we're gonna have to start ranking our small movies of smallness.
You know what? We actually,
At the end of this month,
I think we do need to put that.
Let's figure out the scale of smallness.
The scale and size of how small some of these people have been.
That would actually be a great chart, because we know it's right in the synopsis of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids that they're a quarter of an inch tall.
So that's what we're doing today, by the way. We're doing Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and so that's good to know. A quarter of an inch.
Love data.
So we got that data, and then we're gonna have to put everything in there. Fantastic Voyage. We're gonna have to quantify all of it. I love where our head's at on this one.
I love a chart.
Yeah, love a good chart.
It's going to be great.
So we've given ourselves homework off the top of this episode. We've come up with a project to do in our personal lives.
Good for us.
Good. It's important to stay busy.
You got to keep those hands and the mind going.
You got to stay active.
We're content creators.
How else are you going to create that content? So we've come up with a project, but we're covering Honey, I Shrunk the Kids today as part of our Getting Small, tiny little shrunken down movie month. And as well, if you do want to hear things get big, the Patreon exclusive episode that we're doing this month is we're going to do Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. So if you need if you need the inverse, just to kind of hit the reset switch for a second.
If you're like, I'm not into small, you got anything big? You got any big stuff?
Yeah, the waiter comes over and they're like, it's small movie month on Talk from Superheroes. And you're like, actually, I'm kind of in the mood for something big.
Do you have a secret menu?
This
is the secret menu.
The secret menu
about the big movies
is our Patreon episodes, and this month we'll be doing Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. That will be available soon on our Patreon page.
If what I recall from the movie, they only blew up the one kid. I do not believe it's plural.
Oh, right. I believe you're correct. I believe you're correct. Yeah, they only blow up that one kid. But we will talk about that. That'll be available shortly over on our Patreon page. If you head over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, you'll be able to sign up, get that soon, and then also see all of our back episodes that are the exclusive Patreon ones of the podcast. There might be some other big stuff in there. I haven't looked into it.
I mean, what else was ever big?
I mean, Ant-Man did it in the last Ant-Man.
Oh, he's big. I mean, that was
big.
like Avenger. Oh, he did it in the movie, because I was like, in Endgame, he's big.
Ant-Man
and
has
Civil
consistently
War,
gotten
he's
semi-big lately, so Ant-Man has that going on. But I can't think of another get big.
Everybody get big.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's, we've never done Power Rangers.
We have done Power Rangers.
Oh, we have done. They get big.
We've done both the Power Rangers movies.
I think Zords and combining, that's a form of getting big.
Yeah. I'm going to accept that.
And I actually, you know what? I think Rita Repulsor's henchmen,
she makes her henchmen
villains,
get big.
they get straight, scaled large.
She has the shrinking and embiggening technology, and the Power Rangers don't seem to.
No, they need to use the machines to do it.
They need to build physical things that are that big and combine them, which is interesting. She's really hoarding that technology. If the Power Rangers get their hands on that?
I guarantee you, though, because we are just like 90s Power Ranger, OG kind of Power Ranger, I guarantee you one of the Power Ranger shows, they get big. They just get big. I guarantee you.
Let me throw this one at you, because this is the very cusp of when I stopped watching Power Rangers. There was like a 12-year-old who got turned into a Power Ranger, and he actually had to grow to be a suit. Like when he morphed, he got like a foot and a half taller.
Like a Shazam thing.
Yes, it was
They
very
Shazammed him.
They Shazammed that kid.
Okay.
So that kid, when he morphed, would get a foot taller.
Interesting. Okay, so that's something.
Also Shazam, I guess.
And also
if we're just getting a little bit
Just
bigger?
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Black Adam?
A reasonable amount?
Oh, and also the guy in Black Adam.
Uh,
Who's that guy who gets big? The Atom?
The Atom.
Yeah, the Atom.
Okay, so we got that going on.
Actually, we found some big
We
boys.
found some other. We have some other big ones. Let's before we get into Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, we want to thank one of our wonderful sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Masterclass.
Thank you, Masterclass. It is where you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn from so many incredible instructors who are just at the top of their fields, and they have done these just cinema quality classes for you to learn everything that they know about their expertise. And they are so easy to watch, so easy to take in. I love taking every class on Masterclass.
Very well produced. All of the
So
classes are
well.
very well produced, which makes it like easier to consume, easier to parse. It just leaves you more engaged and kind of active with what it is that you're taking in. But don't mistake that for it's all production quality, because it's not. It's not fluff. It
It's
is both.
content.
It is the content. It is the knowledge. It is the expertise. Well executed, well produced, and delivered to you in the most consumable possible way.
Yeah, each class is broken up into about like 10-minute sections of like this is your lesson for this 10 minutes. So you can binge like a bunch of them in a row, or you can just do them small, short little bursts.
Yeah. And sometimes you can hit multiple world-class instructors for the same subject. So for example, like right now I've been looking up their acting classes. They have Samuel L. Jackson and Natalie Portman. Like bang bang, boom, boom, boom.
You want to know how to be in a Star War? Here we go.
Wow, you know what? Yeah, that's a couple of Star Wars right there.
Those are two big Star War, a prequel.
Yeah. So those classes right there, that's a hit. If you want to learn comedy as well, I've also been taking Steve Martin and Judd Apatow are there for comedy as well. We have filmmaking with Spike Lee or Jodie Foster. So you can get multiple world-class instructors on a single topic, and that is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, like I've taken writing with N.K. Jemisin. I've also taken writing with Malcolm Gladwell. Just both very different approaches to writing, and so interesting and so well produced. And so there's so much to learn about every single topic from the best in the fields.
Yeah, I think Shonda Rhimes as well is one of the is one of the classes available for writing if you're writing for television. Phenomenal. Works on so many devices. Works on your app. Works on your laptop. Works wherever you need it to work. So you'll be able to get it when you want to consume it and when you want to be part of it, which makes it so much easier to learn. So we highly recommend you go check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a Talk from Superheroes listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/TFS now. That is masterclass.com/TFS for 15% off Masterclass. And thank you, Masterclass, for your support.
Thank you so much, Masterclass.
And now let's get into the episode. Let's talk about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
We're small.
All right, we have shrunk those kids.
They're small.
They are small. This is a movie that I have not watched since the VHS tape many decades ago. Diana, did you like it?
I love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I also haven't seen it in a long time, but I used to watch it so much that I think it's a core memory for me. It was a big repeat viewing in my household. So yeah, I love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I think when you think about this movie, you think it's a comedy, but I think it's actually like an adventure movie that maybe has like a few joke elements in it, but I think it's just like the effects are so cool. The story is so simple. It's all just like overwhelming that the fact that everything is practical for the most part is phenomenal. It's a straightforward story in a way that's nice. Like there's very little conflict happening other than just survival. I think it's really fun to watch. I think everyone does a really good job. I think it's I cry a little at the one part that I think we all know. And then the rest of the time you're just like, yeah, we're on an adventure and it's kind of gross and it's kind of fun and I'm a little scared. And it just, as a kid, it felt like not being talked down to. It's very like harsh 80s, like Never-Ending Story-esque, like this is for kids, but adults made it. And you're like, you can tell. Yeah, adults made this. So I had a great time. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is very fun and cool. I think it's a great movie. Andrew, did you like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
I really liked it. I really liked it. I don't think I have as formative a core memory of it as you.
You don't have to. Who would?
But I do remember quite enjoying it, and I think that this is very well done. I agree with you that it is an adventure movie. I remember it being a comedy, but it doesn't have the jokes per minute that I thought it had, or that I would like it to have, quite frankly. But as an adventure movie, it does really work. And I think that one of the things that this movie does really well that I always kind of respect out of an adventure movie with like kids or younger characters as well is that it is a little bit scary. It doesn't feel like it talks down to you, but it does also feel safe. Like the fact that the parents are looking for them, like it doesn't feel like there are other kind of young family adventures within that decade that I actually found a little upsetting and things that are formative for people, like things like The Goonies. Like there are some points in The Goonies where I remember as a kid being like, I think that this child's about to legitimately die.
Yeah. The henchmen in the Goonies point a lot of guns at the kids.
There's a lot of guns.
Like a lot of heavy violence towards the children.
Even the other bullies, like I think at one point, it's been years since I've watched The Goonies, but I'm like, I think Josh Brolin was thrown off of a cliff
He
on
was
a bicycle.
indeed thrown off a cliff, very famously thrown off a cliff on a bicycle.
So there's shit like that where like of a lot of family young romp adventures of the era where I'm like, you did not get the safety right, which I think is a thing that is more prevalent now, or at least in the past few years in like writing family entertainment, which is the parents are in the other room. You don't need constant supervision, but it's not far off if the children decide they want it. And this movie kind of has that with the parents looking for them. Even though there is danger, it feels safe. It never felt scary as a kid.
This is so weird because I don't disagree, but I feel like it should feel so dangerous. Like they actually get like beat up and they're bleeding and they're cut. Like Nick has a huge cut on his chin for this whole movie after the bee crashes. Amy nearly drowns in the grossest mud of all time. Like Auntie dies. Like it should feel very dangerous. But you're right, there is a weird like we're gonna be okay element to it.
Yeah. Because I think that like even though they do show the effect of the strain and like, you know, scrapes, scratches, blood, mud, all that type of stuff. They show the wear and tear of this adventure on the kids, but at no point does it feel like something we haven't experienced as a kid, which would be like an unfortunate scenario. Like we've all, when we were younger, had a moment of like, you fall out of a tree or off a bicycle and you scrape your knee, or you bust your lip a little bit, but you survive and you go on. I've never been thrown off a cliff on a bicycle. So like all of the things that they encounter in this, it's like, yeah, you're a little worse for wear, you're scuffed up, you're beat up, but it's all the sustainable damage of youth.
I wonder if that's less that the parents are there and more that they are in their own backyard.
I think that that's definitely part of it,
They're
too.
not in like a weird foreign location. They're like, we're small, but this is still our backyard.
Yeah.
We are not far from home.
Yeah, I think that we've created an adventure and a huge problem, but in a place that is familiar at the same time.
Yeah, like they're gonna get home. It's not like, I think a thing that stresses me out about, this is a weird one to pick, but it's the first one to come to my head, is when I used to watch Toy Story and I'm like, the toys are lost. How are they gonna get home? Like, how do you find home in a pre-cell phone era?
Yeah.
Especially when
you're
small.
a toy.
And you're a toy, or you're a quarter of an inch tall.
Yeah.
But like they can see the house the whole time. So there is a bit of safety involved there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think that they strike that tone really well. That this, when I was younger anyway, felt very safe and comfortable, and it still feels that today. But I don't need that as much as I needed it when I watched this as a child.
You slept great last night.
I slept just fine with no fears, no night terrors anymore. I'm doing terrific. And then I think the other thing that is just terrific about this movie is Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis is great. He's very good in it. I actually was going to say, because you said off the top, like, it could use more jokes. And he's the only one, maybe Matt Frewer as well, doing jokes. Like, the kids aren't doing any jokes. Like, they're not even trying. It's not like they're failing. They are surviving. And then Rick Moranis and Matt Frewer are doing comedy as big.
Yeah.
Big comedy, little survival.
Yeah,
These are the two worlds.
100%. Like the amount of work that Rick Moranis has to do is boggling, and he puts the whole movie's comedy on his back and carries it gladly. Like this is a tough role to really make work. As great an adventure as it is, and something that like at the time was very remembered and regarded for like, oh, the props and the practical effects and the spectacle of it all. I think that without the comedy of Rick Moranis, it doesn't work at all. You need that light shining on this whole movie.
Yeah, I think that is very important, especially because the kids are in such a dark place, and every like few minutes we cut back to the dad being like the big microscope on his face, and Rick Moranis doing a good job being like, kids, I'm gonna find you. Oh no. And my eyes are real big, and I'm like still believable as a real human man. But also I have to do an odd amount of upper body strength stunts. Which I was wildly impressed about as a man who looks like he has no grip strength whatsoever. Like he has to jump on walk the entire fence that does not have good footing. It's mostly upper body. Then he has to climb the entire laundry line. Yeah. It's not called a laundry line. Clothesline.
Clothesline, yeah.
Clothesline to get like so he doesn't land on the grass. Just like 2 full games of The Floor is Lava. He has to play by himself.
Yeah, and also too just the amount of physical control that it requires to do that type of clown work, because not only is he doing it, like he's hand over hand rope crawling across a clothesline, but doing it while pretending to be wobbly and a clumsy oaf.
And covered in clothes.
To look purposefully awkward and miserable while not failing simultaneously is an incredibly physically demanding feat to do. That is wildly difficult physical comedy, and he has that control, which is very impressive.
Yeah, so he's crushing it just in terms of I'm a comedic actor, and also the physical elements that they have asked him to do. Yeah. So huge shout out to Rick Moranis, our Canadian boy.
Absolutely phenomenal. But I think he always has been that. Like he is someone as well that there are, I think, a few other comedians, especially of that era, who could do a similar performance of these roles. And even when like you look into it, it's like they discussed perhaps John Candy doing this role. And like there are elements of this that kind of work for a few other actors. John Candy definitely has like a charm and a charisma and a loving father figure and someone trying their best.
Chevy Chase came up?
Chevy Chase ain't it, but...
Oh, I actually think Chevy is closer than John Candy.
I think Chevy would have to play it differently. It would be more of a, like, she should leave him if it was Chevy. Like, Chevy would be more of the, like, I am a sincere kind of failure.
I was thinking more like he does physical comedy well, like when he's falling off the roof in Christmas Vacation. Yeah. So he could do the physical stuff young Chevy could have. Yeah. But yeah, Chevy does not have the charm of put up with me for 20 years while I'm doing bullshit.
Yes, yeah. Whereas Rick Moranis has this very unique ability to play characters that are embarrassing, but with full earnesty and no apology as well. And like Ghostbusters is that too, of like, hey Dana, I like you, can we go out? No, I'm trying my best, bye. And like he is a joke, but it's not making a joke. Like he plays it just as a true human being.
Yeah, and that movie also was great. We discussed it in length about how like the movie also respects him. Like he has a party and there's a ton of people there.
Yeah.
He's very popular. He just also likes Dana. And it's like, oh, he's not like a loser. He's just a nerdy, popular guy.
Yeah. So his ability to play these characters who are the butt of a joke with full earnesty and kind of humanity and respect for these people. I really love Rick Moranis' performances over the years. Phenomenal.
I really like Rick Moranis. I actually really like how everything in this movie is very grounded and real, though. Like, it is such a hugely big concept. And I think this is kind of what we liked about Fantastic Voyage as well. It's like your kids got shrunk and they're walking through the backyard to get home. And I think any movie today would be like, it's silly and it's CG and it's zany and we're all laughing and crazy things happen. And this is like a terrifying, grounded reality of how it would work out. Like how long it would take, the things that they would come across, how hard it would be. Like it's not fun. They're dirty. They're dying. They're bloody. The fact that the sets are real is so huge.
Yeah.
And that they're real in such a real way when you're like, that's not what grass looks like to me. But that's what grass looks like when you're a quarter of an inch tall. So the fact that they were smart enough to be like, we're not going to make grass look like what it looks like to a huge person.
Yeah.
A regular sized person, I guess. I'm not huge. I'm huge compared to the kids. But yeah, just the tiny details. I absolutely die for all the prop work in this movie.
It incredible. It can't be overstated enough how well every single prop was executed in this movie. And just certain ideas of scale and of miniaturization, like a blade of grass or a plant that seems relatively smooth to our eye, these little like hairs and fibers and like slightly jagged edges, which like the smaller that you get, there is no perfectly smooth surfaces. Smooth is a concept of scale. And like just going for that as well also just makes these relatively familiar objects feel suddenly very, very alien and very foreign and very scary, because it's like that's not what a blade of grass should look like. But you also, it's close enough that you comprehend what this is, but it's enough that it is scary and different. Yeah.
Yeah, like when Auntie shows up and it's like ants aren't scary and you don't feel anything for them because they're so small. But if one ant shows up when you're this small, you're like, that's a monster. It can lift 50 times its weight. It will kill you so easy. But yeah, when you're small and you've got a practical ant there and you're like, it's 50 times as strong as you. You're like, why are we trying to jump on this thing's back? You're all dead.
Yep.
You're all toast. Auntie killed everyone in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Slaughtered everybody.
Wrecked.
Yes. But they went for like a level of familiarity pet type of a thing, which I think does work, and I can unpack that a little bit as well. But one of the details that I love about I think it's just Andy. I think it's Andy the ant.
Oh, I think it's Auntie.
I don't know.
There's no credited name.
Yeah, person to person, they seem to pronounce it Auntie or Andy, depending on the moment. But either way,
maybe they didn't decide amongst the group.
The ant. The design of the ant, they use horsehair in the design of the ant, like real, not human horsehair, but real
Wait
life.
a minute.
Wait a minute.
What have we done?
I'm losing my grip. No, there's no horseman. Get out of here, horseman.
Bojack. Bojack, get out of here.
Soft neigh. But using horsehair to kind of make it both familiar and different at the same time. To be like, this is using a texture that human eyes has seen in a way that we're not used to seeing it. And then also just juxtaposing the size as well to be like, this is, a horse being a friendly creature that is can carry a relatively large load and is something that can develop a relationship and also work with humans and for humans. So
you give it a sugar cube, it'll be your best friend.
Yeah,
you give it a bit of cookie.
So that idea of like taking a similar thing scaled and moving it down, but creating something different with it. There's just these little brilliant ideas in the prop making of the entire movie. And they spent a year making these props. A year.
And so many sets too. Like even right off the top when they get shrunk in like the office, and then they have these like big divots in the wood they have to jump across. Like everything to scale is so crazy. The milk bowl, where like that is that actual kid in a giant tank full of like watery milk, and it's tires painted to look like Cheerios. Like that's crazy. That's so wild, and it's so
cool.
good. And it's a thing we would never do today. I love practical effects so much.
Oh, and even just the time and budget scenario of starting to build props a year before you began filming the movie.
Oh, man.
Most movies today start filming before the script is finished.
Yeah, because they're like, we're going to change it all with CG a year later.
Exactly.
Instead of a year before, we've
It's
switched
maybe
to a year
later. So the complete antithesis of the workload and time management of what modern films are, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, incredibly done. The Cheerios thing is just wild.
And also, there's so many fun props that aren't even like about the scale stuff. Like the thing the parents are in to look through the grass. Like I don't even know what, like 2 hammocks? What is this? But it feels real. Like you're like, you makeshifted this out of something in the house. I think maybe it's a hammock. I don't even know.
I think it's like, 2 hammocks strapped to a pole hanging around a pivot. I don't even know.
When he has to use like the TV as a counterweight, and you're like, of course, absolutely. Like this is brilliant, but so real. And it's not about scale. It's just fun prop work.
Yeah.
And then like, this is also just a joke they do. But oh man, the neighbors bring in all that stuff on their trip. is so funny.
That is such a great runner.
It's such a good, subtle background gag that is happening for like 45 minutes. They're loading this van.
I'm going to say all day. Literally all day they are loading things into the van. A blender, a microwave, a mini fridge, just
golf clubs,
skis.
What is this trip? You're supposed to just be fishing. A giant box of pizzas.
Yeah.
Like multiple frozen pizzas.
Just everything. Spending all day nonstop loading random shit into an RV. It's such a brilliant background gag.
It was so funny and at the same time so relatable.
Yeah.
Of like when you just overpack for a trip. You're like, well, we've got an RV. We can bring whatever we want. There's no room to sit in the RV for sure.
I also really respect Matt Frewer and Christine Sutherland, who play the couples who are the neighboring couple. The fact that they never have that couple draw attention to it.
Yes.
That makes it because I feel like a lesser movie would do the thing of like drawing attention to the joke by having typically of that era, like the wife character be like, honey, you're bringing too much, and the husband not listening. But the fact that they're both just all day nonstop and no one comments on it, it elevates that joke to just perfection status for me.
It elevates it so much and it makes it so kind of real in a really fun way of like, well, they go on this trip every year. So even if she does think this is too much stuff, she's just accepted it. She's like, every year we pack the golf clubs and we pack the water skis and we're never going to use them, but why would I argue with them? It's been 12 years of going on this camping trip for sure. So it's just like, it's actually like a nice kind of relationship thing at that point. You're like, oh no, they love each other. They're not going to argue about this. They're just going to be silly about it.
Yeah.
But also think it's very reasonable.
And even just like the small detail of they're going with another couple. And it's like, and the other couple is like disappointed because it doesn't work if it's just one couple solo. Like the rhythm of the trip is all fucking off. And that's a very adult thing as well, where like you have couple plans. And if one couple drops out, it's not a solo couple plan.
No,
it works in pairs.
Yeah, I wasn't going to hang out with my wife all weekend. I was going to hang out with my dude best friend, and the wives were going to hang out probably, and the kids were going to mingle. Like, that's a very different two families as opposed to one family.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a wonderful detail. But yeah, I think the neighbors do a fantastic job of playing these characters.
I think they do a fantastic job. I think that also segues into another thing I really like about this movie overall. Like we talk about like the parents like get along and they don't argue about how much stuff to bring. I like that this is a movie with very little conflict between characters. Like the siblings kind of all accept each other. None of the siblings learn a lesson. Like, because, like, Amy and Nick are, like, very different. She's popular and beautiful. He's a super little nerdy kid. And they have no conflict about that, and I actually really like it. I like that she's like, this is my little brother, and he's nerdy, and I don't make fun of him for it. I accept it. I think it's great. And he doesn't think that she needs to be smarter or study more. Like, I think any other movie would have made these two opposing siblings be very at odds or, like, trying to accept each other. But I think it's very real that they're just like, yeah, we're siblings and we accept each other.
We're siblings and we're different. What are you going to do about it?
That's what siblings are like.
That's it. And like you make a few jabs or you bicker,
jab.
but no more or less than if you were like the same. Like, like if you have all of the same interests, you would still kind of jab and bicker at a certain level, and it's no more or less than that level.
Because the brothers, Russ and I forget the other kid's name.
Mm-hmm.
Russ and Ron, what are your names?
Sure.
Russ.
The brothers.
The brothers. The brothers aren't that different from each other.
Yes.
The brothers are quite similar. They're both a little bit sporty. They don't have quite as defined personalities as popular kid, nerdy kid, but they also still jab at each other, but also have nothing to learn about each other. They're siblings who get along fine.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's just real and nice.
One's just a bit older, old enough to be a little angsty, but kind of have all the same interests.
Yeah, he still probably would have played baseball with his brother if he wasn't just mopey about getting cut from the football team.
Which he didn't even get cut. He quit because he doesn't know what he likes anymore. And I'm like, I think you probably still like football in a year or two because it doesn't seem like you have anything opposed to that as much as it is you're just opposed to existence at this age, which we all kind of are.
Oh, we've been there.
Yeah. So it's just like, one's just a bit older and angsty, but other than that, they're pretty much the same person.
Yeah,
one wants to go on a trip with the dad, the other doesn't, which is what happens when you have siblings of two different ages.
Yeah, and I think that also helps with I feel like the safety of the movie. The fact that the siblings already get along and are like saving each other and helping each other. There's no like animosity built in. Like we have to learn to trust or love on this journey. It's like, no, we already trust and love each other. So we're just going to help each other get across the lawn.
Yeah, they kind of start at neutral and end friends. Stronger. They end stronger, but they don't start at animosity. It doesn't start at the Breakfast Club. It starts as people who kind of know each other from school, and then it ends where the Breakfast Club ends, which is relationships and friends. But it doesn't start at the animosity of something like that.
Yeah, that's a good descriptor, I think. Yeah, they start in the middle of Breakfast Club.
Yeah, which I think is a very sweet place for this all to exist. Well, let's take a quick break in the episode. We want to thank our other sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at NordVPN.
Oh, thank you, NordVPN, for your premium cybersecurity and the access to vast amounts of entertaining content. We left the country recently, and sometimes it's nice to have a little VPN action. So we can get that Canadian content when we're in the States.
I know a lot of the times we complain about being locked into Canadian content, and then it's weird when we're away and we can't get back to something that we need to get back to.
We want to watch our basketball team.
Let's just let it happen, please. Sometimes the powers that be don't let it happen, but NordVPN certainly helps with that. And also, it's easy to use. You can connect with one click or enable auto connect for 0-click protection. So it really is simple. It really is simple to suddenly make it seem as if your internet is coming from a different country or a different place than it actually is.
Yeah, and this helps you access other stuff. And it's also just great for security. You're on an open Wi-Fi network at a hotel like we were at, and we're like, a little bit of extra safety with NordVPN. And it is absolutely so easy to use. VPNs sound complicated. You just open them up, you hit connect, you pick whatever country or city you want to choose from. It's just like that with NordVPN.
And it works on so many devices. Like we were using it on our Android phones, Windows laptops, so we were having no trouble on multiple different devices. I've got Mac at home. It's on that. You can also run it on Linux. You can run it on pretty much every major platform, and you can run it on up to 6 devices. So that's really simple and smooth.
And it's super fast. It is no bandwidth throttling. They encrypt all your traffic. Your internet service provider can't slow down your streaming speed. All this good stuff with NordVPN.
So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/TFS to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus a bonus gift. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And thank you, NordVPN, for your support.
Thank you, NordVPN.
And now back to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Back to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Let's talk about a weird thing.
Lay it on me.
What's going on with this dad's size issues? The father, this dad is there's so much weird stuff going on with the dad and Russ, with Big Russ and Little Russ.
Yeah.
Because he's like, they're both completely normal sized.
They are both perfectly normal sized.
Perfectly average sized
man and child. A
man
couple of regular sized Rudies over here.
Yes, they both should be called regular sized Russ. This is what their name should be. And he's like, I used to be bigger when I played football, so you got to be bigger. And he's like, because you're small, son. And I'm like, he's not. He is he's not like a big football guy, but he's not like a scrawny like Nick kid.
Yeah.
He's like a very regular sized teen. He's not small. And he's like saving everyone. He seems quite athletic and strong. He does like 4 rescues. So there's this weird like obsession throughout the movie about how big both these characters are.
I agree.
And it seems like they've been poorly cast for the lines provided to them about their sizes.
Yeah, they should have rewritten those lines based on their sizes. Because I agree. I think Matt Frewer is a phenomenal comedic talent.
Oh, so good.
Owns this role.
So good.
And they needed to rewrite the lines for this.
So can I tell you the line? The weirdest line? Or what were you getting at?
Well, no, I was just going to say that like it almost feels like it should have been like Patrick Warburton who played the Tick. Like it almost feel like the dad should have been, or with those lines anyway, is that it should have been like the dad should have been this big burly, like, I was pretty big when I was in high school. Became the captain of the team right away. You just got to get big. You think big, you get big, and then you are big. Like it feels like it should have been that dude for those particular jokes that they had written.
Physically big and also a little vacant because the lines are also nonsense about getting big.
Yeah.
Here's a line about getting big from this movie. My dad says, the bigger the man, the bigger the moon. What's that mean?
What does that? And it was so awkwardly set up with like
Amy was like, the moon's the same size when you're little. That's crazy.
And just, no, my dad says the bigger the man, the bigger the moon. And even Amy is like, what?
What?
I need you to elaborate on that.
And then Russ just kind of shrugs like, I don't know, man.
My dad is weird.
Because wouldn't that mean if you got bigger, the moon would seem smaller?
Maybe.
Like if your eyes are bigger, the moon seems small. Your eyes don't get bigger if you work out, though. Nothing about it makes sense.
From the jump, it is complete nonsense.
It is a nonsense storyline. The only really great redeeming part of it is when Matt Frewer does a single arm bell lift and then is out of breath for the rest of the scene.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah.
He does such a good job, but like it doesn't fit who he is, the writing.
It almost feels like he's playing it, and I think rightfully so for his build and what he's done. I love that scene of like him looking like he almost shits himself doing a single barbell curl. It's fucking phenomenal. But it feels like he is a guy who should be kind of written that like he's trying to get his son to be who he never was. Like he was never actually captain of the football team. He was a kicker, but he wants his son to be the like
he's got such a kicker's build.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Matt Frewer, a good-looking, reasonably athletic man. He looks like he could do the tour de force, but he doesn't look like a big football player.
He doesn't look like a man who's ever played football. No,
Yeah.
who owns a barbell?
Yeah.
Not in any way.
But the physical dedication of him almost shitting himself on that curl is so, and then just it casually cutting at one point to the son just doing multiple curls. Like,
no problem.
This is nothing. What are we doing here?
Just like 8 in a row.
Yeah.
No breaks.
I adore that. Yeah, don't know what's going on with the size. And then once the dad is shrunk and then resized, he's not quite as big as he was before. His hat doesn't fit.
Which also feels like such a funnier joke if it is a Patrick Warburton type man who like is so proud of how big he is.
Yes.
Like it's funny that he has a hat that says Giants on it and it's too small and then it's too big. Like that's a good joke still, but a way better joke is like, yeah, a big Patrick Warburton-y like muscly guy who's suddenly like, am I shorter than my son? What the Stilinski? And he'd have to like yell Stilinski and he'd have to get new clothes or like, and he'd be like, I can't fix like 2 inches.
Yeah.
It's not that precise.
It's not, and he has to like look up at Rick Moranis all of a sudden.
Yeah, something like
he's
that.
still a human size, but he's definitely not as big as he used to be.
Or some kind of joke where Russ is like an inch bigger instead of the young Russ, like the kid.
Yeah,
because like all of these lines about how you're not big enough to play football, and like maybe now he'd be big enough to play football. He's like an inch taller.
And I think part of the problem with this is, and it's weird to say about a movie that is typically and in prop work so good with scale and creating a sense of scale. I think one of the other problems is that for all of these things about this kid's size, to be like, you're too little, you're not little, you're too little, you're not big enough, be bigger, why are you so little? We never see another kid of his age near him to see him be, because I'm looking at this and it's just like a 16-year-old dude in a vacuum, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He looks like the same size as every other 16-year-old dude.
He's bigger than the other kids in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all the information I have.
You need to get like a 30-year-old playing 20 who is big next to him to make him look embarrassingly small, you know? You need to get a like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, where it's like, he's a normal sized man. How do we make him look small and tiny? We get 30-year-old bodybuilder Joe Manganiello to play a teenager next to him.
To bully him.
And it's like, now Tobey Maguire looks like a less than normal sized human man.
A Tobey Maguire who had to get in incredible shape to play Spider-Man and couldn't just be skinny during the teenage parts.
Yeah. But we got Brick Shithouse Joe Manganiello next to you, and now suddenly you're a Lil Bean.
Yeah, he's taking physics, and he's 300 pounds of muscle.
Exactly, but they didn't do that in this movie. There was no sense of scale for why that kid was a small kid.
They absolutely did not. Yeah, that is a great point. Yeah, they don't know how to do it with humans. Yeah, they're like if you need a robot kid, we probably could have built a robot kid, but with humans, they're just human.
Yeah, they're just humans. That is it.
Speaking of humans, just like the craziest thing, I know we talked about how safe this movie is. Just a wild piece of trivia that the original script had a 5th kid who died.
Pretty bleak stuff.
What the hell? Like, I'm sure it was probably a very early script that got kicked out pretty early. It seemed like it was because it was supposed to be during the sprinkler part, so I guess it would have been like Amy's character or another character just probably did drown. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing, but that's crazy. I can't think of a movie where a child dies.
My Girl.
Any movie. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. Now I'm all traumatized again. There's a reason I could never buy a mood ring.
But
it was because of My Girl.
I do think this is within, I wish I could think of other examples, but within a span of late 80s, early 90s where it was you could kill a kid. There was just a time frame where you could kill a kid.
But with My Girl, the movie was about the fact that kid died.
You're right.
It was a movie about working at a funeral parlor and of death and being a child dealing with death. It wasn't we have to leave your body in the yard because you drowned in the sprinkler system, which they would have to do in this. Or the ants would take the body away and eat it or something.
Sure.
There's no not incredibly bleak version where a child dies in this
There's
backyard.
no non-horrific version.
Absolutely horrific. I would actually love to see the script, though. I would love to see where they came from with that.
I really feel like it's going to be an extra half a page. I don't feel like it's a hugely different script.
I still need to know how the children react to dying and leaving a dead body.
Yeah. I mean, hey, maybe it was that 5th kid who came over to mow the lawn. Maybe it wasn't a sibling. Maybe it was
just like a burner kid.
A burner kid. Yeah, you need one burner kid in there.
One kid unaffiliated.
Yeah. The Zelinskys do not notify the parent of that child as to what has occurred.
We don't need to bring that family
into this. No, let's not get a lawsuit happening.
Speaking of the lawsuit, the police absolutely think the Stilinskys stole all these children, by the way.
Yes.
There's no way the cops just leave their house after they filed a missing children's report without seeing their children be alive and well.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one that I could really go either way on the writing of police in that regard.
I think when the neighbors have also filed a missing children's report.
Yeah.
There's definitely you've killed these children.
Yeah.
Or kidnapped them, or they're in the house.
Yeah. I'm okay with this. I feel like, you can certainly write the police as the overly abrasive, we've made an assumption, and we're going to now really power through on this. But also, negligent police is also reasonable writing also. So it's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I feel like they'd search the house. Well, they wouldn't find anything, even if they did, I guess. The kids... That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. How close to the end of their shift is it? And have they been approved for overtime? I think will have a huge effect.
That's a great point.
If they are off shortly with no overtime budget, they are not looking any further into that case. If they've been approved for additional overtime, they will ransack that house for 6 hours. So that might be the deal breaker. We don't know enough about the police situation.
That's fair. I mean, I guess if the kids were gone more than 48 hours, it would get upscaled to a detective.
Then it could
and then they'd be knocking on that door again. So
scale it
they
up
found the
a
kids
bit.
in time.
Yes. Yeah, they got there in time.
We haven't talked about Auntie enough. Mm-hmm. How dare you? I mean, I guess instead of killing a child, they killed an ant.
Yeah.
Which isn't that sad, but is wildly sad also.
They really land the sadness of that moment. Yeah.
I am a grown woman, and I cried for 5 minutes straight when Auntie died.
That hit you real hard.
He helped. He saved them. He wanted to, and they kept talking about how he was a baby.
Yeah.
He wasn't even an adult ant. They made a point 4 times to be like, he's a baby ant. He's just a little bean. He hasn't even seen the world. He's on his first scouting mission to get a cookie, and we got him killed.
Which doesn't make any sense, but still. to look at a giant ant and go, it's a baby. No, it's not. That's an ant like every other ant.
An ant at a scale you've never seen.
Yes.
Like, there aren't two ants.
No.
There's not.
Again, much like the teen that's too little, you don't see another adult ant to get a sense of scale.
Yeah. If there was also an adult ant, you'd be like, that's a baby ant.
Yes, yeah. I also think I read online that baby ants are maggots and all ants are adult ants. So it is also nonsense, but it does help you connect a bit more in a weird way.
Yeah, they're all just a bunch of kids on an adventure.
Yeah.
You don't want like a 30-year-old ant on your adventure with kids.
It made me a little sad. It wrecked you, though.
It wrecked me. He made the little sounds and he caressed their face and he sacrifice played. Like, it was way more emotional when Anthony died in Ant-Man 1, although Anthony in Ant-Man 1 was also sad.
It was also sad.
A lot of sad ant deaths in the world.
And also, Zelensky's, where do you live?
Why is there a scorpion?
Why is there a scorpion in your backyard?
Everything else in the movie had been so seeded in well, like the cookies, the kid coming over to work the lawnmower, the dad smoking, like everything else they found in the yard was so explained. And I really feel like there needed to be a scene of Nick just being like, my scorpion escaped or something.
Yeah, like a Home Alone tarantula type of a thing of like, yeah.
Yeah, because this is... I don't know where they live, but it's not scorpion territory.
I don't think it's scorpion territory. This wasn't the Australian outback. I don't know what to tell you.
This wasn't the American desert. Like, this is a very suburban,
lush,
residential...
green residential area.
Yeah. So, like, that's a human danger if there's, like, a regular-sized human danger if there's a scorpion in your backyard.
Absolutely. Look out for your kids if you've got a scorpion-filled backyard.
Yeah, the parents doing the loop in the hammocks could have gotten fucking scorpions.
They could have gotten scorpioned at any given time. So that is a huge threat. Yeah.
And, like, it's a really cool, like, monster because it's so much bigger than the ant. Like, it's a great idea of, like, oh, it's scary, it's huge.
Yeah.
But it's just like, a scorpion?
Scorpion? Where
did we not have any more dangerous? Like, the bee was cool.
The bee was the right level. That was pretty dang cool.
Maybe there could have been, like, a praying mantis. I don't know. They're so slow and cool, though. Praying mantis seems chill.
It does seem chill. Yeah. They're powerful, though.
Oh, they're powerful.
They're very powerful. Yeah, the bee was the right level. I also like the pollen not being able to get at the kid because the pollen was too big now.
Yeah, he could only sneeze like one time because just a tiny bit got in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, these kids got so wrecked.
Yeah.
So wrecked.
Yeah, they were nasty by the end of this series of events.
That mud might have been the grossest thing I've ever seen. I actually think that is more of a core memory for me than Auntie dying, is her just like sinking into that gross ass mud.
Yeah.
And then spitting it up after mouth to mouth.
Could she not swim? What was it?
I think she got knocked out by the impact.
Oh, okay.
Because like the drop landed right by her. So I think she was just unconscious. Because Russ seemed to be standing.
Yeah, Russ was fine.
Yeah, he like when he was diving in for her, he would get back up and I'm like, his shoulders are above water level. Like he's standing. So I think she just got knocked out.
Okay. I can buy into that.
It's my take.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling good on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You're feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I'm actually a little excited to watch Honey, I Blew Up the Kid now.
Let's
see what happens when they're big.
Let's blow it up. Let's go in, though, for the final question. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we discussed, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, though, we want to remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts. It just takes a few moments. It's free, and it helps us move up the rankings. It helps encourage new people to actually start listening to us. And so that's how we grow. That's how we expand, and it's a free way to support the podcast.
It's free. We'd love to hear us. Let us know if you want big movies or if you want little movies. If you, what's your size ratios?
You big or little?
You big or little? Things we need to know.
Let us know in the review. And while you're there, review a few of your other favorite podcasts. It helps all of the podcasts that you know and listen to.
They're going to read it. If you're trying to get in touch with your favorite podcast.
And they will also read it. So that's a good way to get in touch as well. So rate, review, and subscribe. And if you want to support the podcast monetarily, then you can hit us up over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service where you can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget, and you'll get different kinds of cool bonuses for doing that. So if you have $1 in your budget, you can go over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. You can kick in $1 a month. all those add up. They add up and they make a huge difference. They help keep everything running at the network. They help this podcast going. So no amount is too small. But if you have a little more in the budget, you can do $1, $3, $5, $10. You know how numbers work.
You got this.
But at the $10 hero level, you get bonus episodes of this podcast every single month, including this month's, which will be on Honey, I Blew Up the Kids.
And also, if you sign up at the $10 level, you get access to all the old episodes immediately. There are dozens upon dozens of extra episodes for you to go through. If anything, they're all things we've never done on the regular podcast. Ad-free, a great time, just bangers.
No, oops, all bangers.
All hits in the Patreon.
Absolutely. So just head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And when you head over there, you can see all the levels, all the bonuses, everything. Check it out. Whatever is in your budget, we appreciate it. And if it's not in the budget, check us out later, maybe.
Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. And let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question now. What would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My change would be, I feel like they're trying to have a couple little themes in here that get a little wishy-washy and don't really pan out. Like, I feel like they're going for the Stalinskys are distant parents who give their kids too much independence, and the Thompsons are too in their kids' faces, like spending too much time with them, which I actually don't think is a real problem. But like that seems to be where the movie's at. And I feel like the kids never kind of talk about like, I wish my parents spent more time with me, or the other kids aren't like, I wish my parents spent less time with me. And the parents never discuss like, oh, we were too in their space, or oh, we gave them too much space. It feels like no one learns like that there should be just a middle ground of not enough of like there's too much independence or there's too much spending time with them. And it feels like there just needs to be a discussion either between the parents or between the kids of like what should actually happen. It feels like everyone's really happy when they get big again, but nothing really got resolved between any of the characters. So yeah, I would have liked the kids just being like, my dad won't won't give me any alone time. And then being like, we only have alone time. And like telling their parents maybe we all find a middle ground about alone time and quality time, mixing it together into one big family that actually balanced out. So just something like that. It feels like they've thrown a lot of ideas in here about like what the theme will be about raising kids and panned out none of them. And then just like, we have a shrinking machine now. It doesn't matter. We're going to be rich. And that seems to have solved all the problems. So that's my change, is just some discussion and some light theme changes.
I like that. I can get on board with that. Absolutely. Because, yeah, I fully agree. They kind of dance across that, but never really come to a conclusion. And it just kind of ends with a nice happy dinner with both families kind of being friends now. But there is no middle ground, no change, no lesson learned.
Yeah, no changes or lessons, which is kind of important.
Friends made, but no lessons learned.
Love a friend.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I would also like the lessons, because they really do portray these two neighbors as two different sides of the same coin, which is why they don't get along. And they get along and meet in the middle, but not thematically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's mine. Andrew, what would you change?
Well, I love that. I'm on board for that. I think that the characters of Diane and May, the wives, I think that they need to play a larger role, because they don't really have much personality in this. It's just the husbands that do. So it's just like, oh, well, Rick Moranis' character, Wayne, is an inventor. And it's like, Diane's a real estate agent. Some with real estate. Don't worry about it. It's like, okay, well, Russ, he's big. He's the big guy. And he used to play football. And May's also here. She's also here. She is around for some of this. So I think that just needs to be given some characteristics, some type of just some type of a character. Yeah. I don't even know how to elaborate on that, but I'm like, give them something.
No, that's totally fair. The husbands are these wacky, over-the-top characters, and the wives are just kind of wife.
Yeah.
Someone wrote wife as a place filler and didn't fill it in.
I can't say a single characteristic about either one of these characters.
Oddly enough, the couple that they were supposed to go on a trip with, that wife seemed to have more personality than the other two wives. She had 2 lines.
Yeah.
She's like, that man's flying and I have a dog and I want to go on the trip. And like she actually had like agency with about 3 lines, more than these other 2 women did who were in the whole movie.
Yeah, yeah. And I think May, the neighbor's wife, was the opportunity for that, if I was really going to focus in, because Diane and Wayne were both like not very attentive parents was kind of the idea of that household. So it's like, okay, they both play that characteristic, and Wayne's is a bit more outgoing with like creating inventions and stuff like that. But I feel like May could have been maybe a little bit more intense as opposed to being like the reasonable mother of being like, yeah, your dad's right. Get big. Like, what are you doing? Like, let's do it, kids. Like, I feel like she could have been a little bit more helicopter mom, like a little bit more like, come on, let's go. We're going to the game. We're going to play it. If she had the same characteristics but bigger, I think that could have worked.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to take that. Or like, since they're the overbearing parents who are there too much, just like asking too many personal questions, like what girls do you like, or maybe you should go out with Amy next door, or being too involved in their personal lives, something as big as Matt Furrer's doing.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah. I love that.
Sweet.
Giving agency to women?
Love it.
I'm not gonna not like it.
Yeah. They need some characteristics. That's your job, writers of the movie. Figure out what character, literally any
characteristic.
Any would be good. So that's my big change for that. I think we did it.
We've
done it. We got real little. And now we are up to next week on the podcast. We will be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the reason for the reason for the season, the reason for the miniature month.
Our main small.
But we will also then be closing out the month with Osmosis Jones also being small, and we need to do up our charts of how small all of these things are.
It's gonna be fun.
But next week on the pod, we will be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.